You're nothing more than a janitor." Rachel Thompson's voice echoed through the sleek boardroom, her eyes dismissive as she glanced at Mark Daniels, standing silently by the door. Mark's worn uniform and humble posture only made her mockery sharper. "This meeting's for real business, not for someone like you," she sneered. A low chuckle rippled through the room as her colleagues nodded in agreement. But Mark didn't flinch. His expression was unreadable, a calm mask that hid the storm brewing inside. He'd heard it all before: disrespect, belittlement, scorn. But today, something was different. Today, he would show them exactly how wrong they were. As the laughter died down, Mark's lips twitched into a subtle smile. He knew a reckoning was coming, one they'd never see coming. Mark Daniels had always kept his head down, knowing his place. He wasn't just a janitor. He was a man who had worked his whole life to stay invisible. Every day, he cleaned up the messes of the rich and powerful, making sure the floors shined, the windows sparkled, and the coffee was always hot. But to the people in this building, he was nothing more than an expendable cog in the machine. Rachel Thompson and her colleagues walked past him daily, never once offering a word of kindness or respect. To them, he was invisible, a quiet figure who didn't matter. He never complained. He never tried to stand out. It wasn't his style. But today, things felt different. As Rachel strutted past him again, dismissing him with a glance, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the time had come. He'd had enough of being treated like a ghost. He had a plan that no one, not even Rachel, would see coming. Deep down, Mark knew the truth. They had crossed the line with the wrong man. As Mark continued to clean the conference room, he overheard Rachel's voice again, this time louder, more biting. "I swear, we pay them so much for nothing," she said, speaking as if he wasn't even there. "A janitor? He probably doesn't even know how to read the contracts we're dealing with." Her laugh echoed through the room, followed by the chuckles of her colleagues. Mark's hands tightened around the rag he was holding. The word stung, but it wasn't the first time. It never was. He had gotten used to it. People who thought he was just a cleaner, that he didn't belong in their world. As Rachel walked past, she deliberately brushed her shoulder against his, knocking his cleaning supplies to the floor. She didn't even glance back. The room filled with more laughter, a group of well-dressed executives enjoying their moment of superiority. Mark crouched down to pick up his things, the humiliation burning in his chest. But this time, there was no silent acceptance. This time, he was done being invisible. Mark's mind raced as the laughter of the room continued to echo in his ears. The pressure was building, and he could feel the heat rise within him. His hand gripped the mop handle tighter, almost to the point of breaking it. The mocking glances, the whispers, the arrogance of these people, it was all too much. Rachel, standing at the front of the room with her confident smirk, didn't even seem to notice the toll it was taking on him. She continued talking about the little people, the ones she and her colleagues deemed beneath them. Mark's chest tightened with each passing moment, the weight of their words pressing down on him like a heavy weight. The last straw came when Jordan Miller, one of the top investors, walked by him and casually knocked over his bucket of water. He didn't even apologize. He just smirked as the water splashed across the floor. That was it. Mark's heart pounded as the final remnants of his patience snapped. He had been pushed too far, forced into a corner where silence no longer felt like an option. He was done being the invisible man, the one they laughed at, the one they underestimated. It was time to show them who he really was. And as he stood tall, the crowd's mocking chatter faded into the background. Mark Daniels was no longer just a janitor. Mark stood in the middle of the room, the stares of the executives burning into him. His heart was racing, but something inside him had shifted. He took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing as he met Rachel's gaze. For the first time, she faltered, her confident smirk disappearing. Mark didn't move. He just stood there, still and steady, as if waiting for something or someone to change. The room fell silent. Rachel, still unaware of the storm brewing within him, opened her mouth to speak. But before she could, Mark took a step forward. His voice was calm, but it sent a chill through the room. "Are you sure you want to do that?" The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken power. Rachel paused, her expression faltering for the briefest moment. She didn't know it yet, but Mark was about to change everything. The silence in the room stretched on, the air thick with tension. Rachel blinked, thrown off by Mark's unexpected words, but she quickly recovered, attempting to regain her composure. Her eyes scanned the room, looking for validation, but the other executives were silent now, their attention fully on Mark. He hadn't moved, hadn't said anything more, yet his presence alone seemed to fill the room. Rachel's mouth opened, ready to dismiss him once again, but something made her hesitate. Her gaze flickered to the contract on the table in front of her, and then back to Mark. That was when she saw it, a faint but unmistakable glimmer in his eyes. Something about him had changed. It wasn't just the calmness in his voice, or the way he stood there, unshaken. There was a quiet confidence, an aura of knowledge and authority, that made her doubt herself for the first time. "You've never even seen the full contract, have you?" Rachel scoffed, trying to regain control. But Mark didn't answer right away. He didn't need to. His silence spoke volumes. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folder. It was unmarked, a stark contrast to the glossy binders everyone else carried. He placed it on the table in front of Rachel. She raised an eyebrow, unsure of what to expect. Slowly, he opened the folder and slid a single sheet of paper towards her. Rachel's eyes skimmed over it, but the words didn't make sense at first. Then, as the realization hit, her breath caught. This wasn't just any document. This was the missing piece to a deal that had slipped through the cracks, something no one had noticed until now. She looked up at him, suddenly aware of the magnitude of her mistake. Mark wasn't just a janitor. He never had been. Mark watched as Rachel's eyes widened in shock. She quickly scanned the document, her fingers trembling slightly as she flipped through the pages. The contract was ironclad. Everything she thought she knew about the deal was wrong. And buried in the fine print, a clause that would have ruined everything for her company if it had gone unnoticed. The room felt heavy with silence. Mark leaned back slightly, folding his arms across his chest, his calm demeanor belying the storm that had been brewing inside him for years. Rachel's eyes darted to the others in the room. Her colleagues were speechless, caught between disbelief and recognition. And then, finally, she spoke, her voice softer now, almost too humble. "How did you?" She trailed off, unable to finish the question. Mark smiled, but it wasn't a smile of satisfaction. It was a knowing one, as if the pieces of the puzzle had always fit together. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a badge, one that gleamed in the fluorescent light. "I'm the lead consultant on this deal," he said quietly. "I was just playing my part, keeping things low-key." Rachel's face drained of color. Her mistake was no longer just a minor error. It was a career-ending one. Mark stood up and turned to leave the room, the weight of his power settling over him like a quiet storm. No one would ever underestimate him again. As Mark left the room, the executives sat in stunned silence, the weight of their actions crashing down on them. Rachel sat frozen, her mind racing as she realized the magnitude of her mistake. The realization hit hard. The man she had humiliated, the one she had dismissed, had just exposed her incompetence in front of the entire room. The deal was saved, but at what cost? Her reputation was in ruins. Karma, it seemed, had a way of finding those who thought they were untouchable. Mark had not only corrected her mistake, but had done so with grace and authority. As he walked out of the building, he didn't look back. The wrongs had been righted, and his silence spoke volumes. He had won.